Last presentation by Professor Chakravarti, who heads the IDC in Bombay, and who's really been the very strong moving force behind this whole workshop. So in all modesty, he's taken the last
Yeah, thank you.
slide here.
I'm extremely fortunate to be here in front of four of my teachers who are here. Professor Rao, Professor Atvanka, Munshi, and Professor Gigi Ray. It's really, really nice. And one of my mentors, Professor Ranjan, also is here. So it's very good that we are discussing design deconstruction. And I'm extremely thrilled about this because I'm working with the ministry for the last, India Post Ministry for the last 8 years. And I really can imagine what it is to have a minister and the additional secretary and the secretary here in the morning, the whole day with us. It's just unbelievable. And for the people who have been working at the level of change and cause, this is really phenomenal. And I think we'll surely have some very good results out here. Uh, I actually coined this term innovation by design, and the major challenge for me was that I was not, because I came from industry. I worked for 7 years as the head of design in Larsen& Toubro, and I saw that design cannot remain with the designers. It has to go into the field. It has to perform. It has to connect with the user. If it doesn't connect, it's not possible. And I kept teaching and kept saying that technology is changing. Why can't now students, while they are studying, perform and create products in the market before their tenure is over? And it is becoming a reality already. And I'll share some of these presentations with you. I started my career in 1988, and I designed the Z-Line petrol pump, the Z petrol pump. And this was extremely challenging. There were 500 engineers in the company at different divisions, and there was no product. They were out of market, and they just get one designer from IDC. And within 6 months, I created an innovative product thanks to all the methodologies of using user studies. I was not behind money. I said the first important thing is satisfy the user. And who is the user? Not only the person who comes to fill petrol, but the person who gives petrol. So starting from there, looking at aesthetics, looking at design, looking at, and incidentally, this is a dance form. It's derived from Bharatanatyam, and it did very bad in the European market. They said, what is this product which is looking like a dance form? But in India, it did extremely well. So that's the whole beauty of Indian design. And here, for example, this product, when it came to the market, after 2 years, the customers felt that they got better petrol and better measure of petrol from this pump. So the technology which was there inside came out. We had better technology, of course, inside. But how we assimilated the technology and made it into a product made all the difference. Promptly, after 6 years, the competitor came to me and said, you wiped out my market. Now design one more product for me which will wipe out your earlier product. And then we said, technology has changed, people have changed, markets have changed. So we should be able to do a new product. And we use the same phenomenon, and earlier it was inspired by dance form, this was inspired by the Nokia mobile phone. Remember those old Nokia phones, which look like a mobile phone, large ones? And it was 1994, and we designed this product again, the same story, tremendous amount of success. It actually became number one, and L&T had to sell off their division because they didn't want to be number two. So then, after 10 years, NID got a request from ONGC. Why don't you design the product which is the best in the world? Because ONGC is a world player. They don't look at India, they look at the whole world. And Subir Aha came and said, why don't you do another product? Then NID said, we'll do collaborative innovation. Pradyumna came to me and said, why don't you join hands? We joined hands with the industry. And by this time, I had finished my PhD at IIT Delhi, which was collaborative innovation, took real projects from the field and actually synthesized them and came up with a model for innovation. And that particular model we used over here, and we had a successful product. And even the prototype here, which was completely done at IDC, IIT Bombay, is actually still working in the field. So technology went to that level. CNC manufacturing, high-tech plastic molding, CNC tool making, everything is today possible, and that is the result of this. So serial innovation. So within 20 years, all the petrol pumps in the country are done by us. And then this whole competition which got wiped out. No American product could sell in the country because our products were frugal, they were good for the Indian market, and all the aspects were coming in a big way. So from here, I moved to this collaborative innovation model. Most of the things are available online. We'll share with the people all the resources. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the core value of this whole flexible collaborative model is that people have to be working 100% on innovation. They just can't see as a side activity. Because I've noticed in industry, the person who's the most busiest person is made the innovation in charge. And he just can't perform. because you need to be 100% involved. So from there, we need three teams, basically the core team, the enterprise-wide team, and the external team. And in all projects we've been using this, and it is working phenomenally. The core team works 100%, the enterprise-wide team works around 40%, and the external team gives you 5% support and gives you maximum creative inputs, and it's phenomenal. Today, it's more and more easy to do it in real life because of very good network and connectivity. So as a paradigm shift, a lot of people used to come to IDC and say, why are your products not in the market? And I had actually no answer. You do such fancy models, you keep such fancy CAD models, but none of them are in the market. So this actually became a very large, strong sense that why can't student projects become real? So we basically, when we broached this issue with our alumni, they supported with $150,000 lab. So we started an innovation studio called the Shenoy Innovation Studio. And in the studio, we realized that if products have to go into the market, you just can't work at one level. You have to work at the system level, you have to work at the policy level, you have to work at the government level. And that's where we have Montek Singh Ahluwalia inaugurating. My students were surprised, said, why Montek Singh Ahluwalia? He's the planning commission, and then he gave a wonderful lecture to us of how he's looking at the 12th five-year plan and how the whole policy is so important to look at all the design domains. So then from here, we now said that we have this large PhD, my industrial experience, and then can I change one simple product in the government sector? And I was watching this rusted post box next to IDC. I said, I am going to change this post box. And then we realized that this was 10% of the problem. Implementation was 90% of the problem. So we quickly went ahead and conceived these 7 stages, which I call the Chakku's 7 C's. The first one is the cause. You have to be really an activist mode. We see activists today, Rajiv, Aman, and most of the other people who did projects. You have to have an activist mode to work. And if you're not concerned about that, you just can't go ahead with design. So the first thing was the cause. The concern to solve the problem has to be paramount. And we're teaching these steps to the students, and students are doing phenomenally well. I'll just show you some examples from there. So then second comes the context. How well can I understand the context? The context is extremely critical, so you have to get to the context. Most of the slides are online. We've got much detailed presentations. I'll mark the copies to you. We're running out of time. So the context becomes the key, and this is the context. So we went to the context, then we came to the comprehension, where you get a design insight. So context can come only if you're in the field for 20 days with the people. Without that, the context doesn't come. And then you draw insights. From insights, you come to a very important issue, the check. You need to know where you're going. What type of design will work with that insight? So that design became very critical. So here we have contemporary materials, better maintenance. And then all these causes, what I show you, the concerns, 7 C's, are actually pillars in courses. So you have the creative ideation course, the sketching course, and these are the multiple ideas which came up. Ideas get converted into concepts, and all this multiplicity gives you the success story. You just make one idea, it will fail, but you make 100 ideas, weave them into 3 concepts, and then select one, you're bound to succeed. And that's exactly what happened in this whole case study. And then we created the third one, the crafting, where you make mock-up models. The whole design was fabricated with the best in technology, like the way I worked in L&T. And then we had the 150-year celebration of India Post, where the secretary and the minister actually launched the product. And now the story behind this whole as soon as we took the project, we went to the Postmaster General. We made them part of the team. From the Postmaster General, we reached the member secretary in Delhi. We made them part of the team. So over the journey, we at least had 20 meetings with all the people concerned, so that they are in line with the design thinking. If I'd gone in the end, it would have never seen the light of the day. So how do you take system and policy design as part of the whole journey is the most critical thing over here. And the product is now actually manufactured and installed all over the country. We got feedbacks. We're further modifying. There's a tender coming up, and it is going ahead in the journey. So how do we put this all into teaching? Professor Devang, my director sitting here, he always keeps saying, Chakravarti, why can't you do something with the BTech students? So we started a minor program. In a minor program, the first time we had 80 students, we did fabulous projects, same 7 C's. And I said, the first projects which took was design for the elderly. The students came up with phenomenal results. 2010, 128 students took it. It became very interesting. 211, 236 students took it. Then it became a big challenge to teach projects, because when you have so many students, how will you motivate them to do projects, and how can you give attention? And now actually this is the current 2013, we have 104 students, and the projects we are doing are within 24 studios. the toughest problem gets implemented in the field, and that motivation is coming because of group working. So all the theory was there since morning, so I'm not going to go into all those aspects, but I'll quickly show you what happens. Case study method teaching, which is extremely critical. Amita was talking in the morning that we want to create some case studies from Aman's and Rajiv things so that we know case studies can give results. So this is exactly the case study of the petrol pump and the case study of the post box, which I tell them first. As soon as I tell them the case study, they have the formula ready. Our students want formulas. And once the formulas are there, the success is there. So after the case studies, you have distance learning, tremendous amount of information online. So in this case, what happened was, to my surprise, I had 140 students and 20 students were absent. And when they saw the video online later on, and when I gave them a question, that is, they were absent in the class, and they said, if you come to class, you get attendance. And attendance is marks. In my course, if you're in front of me, you get marks. If you're not in front of me, you don't get marks. That was the strategy. Then they said, we are absent now, what can we do? I said, watch the video and come back, because all these are available in our CD. We have a program where we record all the lectures. So they watched and came back, and I said, I'm going to ask only one question. You answer, you get marks. You don't answer, you don't get marks. And you also have to realize, whom are you addressing? I'm addressing my students who are from JEE. They've always been challenged. They've always been working with focused minds. So when I gave this challenge to them, the people who saw the video and came actually did better in the exams than the people who were in the class. So where do we now look at this distance education? So it's really, and the problem was also very, very strong. The problem was designing a water bottle for children in the playground, and all of them did phenomenally well. So it's not really a challenge that we can't embrace new technology for design. We don't have a choice today. We have to embrace new technology. We have to have online learning, and we have to have challenging questions for them so that they can come up with better results. And then hands-on is extremely critical. They all come in groups. We run the studios day and night. The students work in studios. And this is the current batch. 2 weeks back, they're all working 10 people in one group. And they can solve problems like pedestrian crossing on the roads to railway crossing, no people dying. And then we have problems like cycle, umbrella for a cycle, and things like that. And they're all coming up with mock-ups and prototypes. And finally, they're going to present all their design in the end of 30th this month. So this whole culmination shows that since morning we've been discussing all these issues, and we've been really implementing them and checking it out. It's really, really working. So I think we need to come up with these whole programs of how we can work on project-based, experiential-based learning, and those points are anyway there since the day started. Thank you very much.